Now that we've got an understanding of pathogens, generally speaking, and more specifically bacteria and viruses, we can have a look at how these pathogens are transmitted from one person to another or from one vector to another, and also how our bodies can start to protect ourselves from these harmful pathogens. So, when it comes to transmission, there's a few key types. Okay, it's not just on this slide, we're also on to the next slide as well, but let's start here. Number one, contact. We can have two forms of contact, either direct or indirect. Direct is where you would touch an infected person. So touching, kissing, sexual contact, any of these things. Direct physical contact with an infected person. Indirect, on the other hand, is say you touched a desk in front of you and then someone else came through and touched that desk. If you were sick and you've touched the desk, you've put the pathogen onto the desk, another person has touched the desk, and now they've picked that up onto their hands or onto their utensils, something like that. Ingestion, okay, so what we're talking about here is unclean food or water, okay? This enters your digestive tract and then it's absorbed into your bloodstream, particularly nasty. Body fluids, so any of the following, so blood, breast milk, semen from an infected person into contact with the bloodstream or mucous membranes of another person, okay? Now, this may get into the body via needles as well, or any case where there's a break in the skin. Number 4, vectors. Vectors we've spoken about previously with our recombinant DNA technology. We've spoken about a vector being anything which can transmit DNA from one thing into another. And in this case, a vector is defined as something that can transfer pathogens. Okay, so common examples are insects, so things like ticks with Lyme disease, and mosquitoes with things like malaria or Ross River virus. Second last, droplets. Droplets are not to be confused with our next one, airborne transmission. Droplets are small pieces of moisture containing pathogens. Okay, so they're emitted when we're breathing, talking, sneezing and coughing are the two major ones, to be perfectly honest with you. And they contact the mucous membranes of someone else. So they might breathe them in, it might settle on someone's food, and then they eat that food, absorbed into their body via the alimentary canal. All of these things are basically where these droplets land in some way and someone brings them into their body. Finally, airborne, okay? So when the moisture in droplets evaporate, many of the bacteria are killed, but some viruses and some bacteria remain viable. What do I mean by this? I mean that some of these bacteria, some of these viruses will survive and they'll be able to survive in a sort of dried out state, okay? And what happens is they'll be inhaled into the body, they'll make contact with the mucous membrane, and they'll then cause infection. So, when it comes to your body, we have 3 lines of defense. We have 6 different ways that we can get sick, okay? And we have 3 key lines of defense. And they can be broken up into 2 broad categories. Number 1 is the non-specific. And this is our first and our second line. Okay, so I'll highlight in yellow here. This non-specific is forms of defense which work against all pathogens. They are non-specific, as per their name. The final one is specific. They only work against a very specific or a very particular pathogen. Okay, they're not going to work against everything. So, our first line of defense, which is what we're going to focus on here, is a non-specific form of defense, and it is effectively a barrier to prevent the access of pathogens to the body. So, when we're having a look, first line of defense, non-specific. First line of defense, it is a barrier. So, let's have a look. Their job to stop pathogens from entering the body. So some of the different ways that we can do this are reflexes. Okay, so some examples of reflexes that are quite common: sneezing, where you've got an irritation within your nasal passage, and this causes air to be forcefully ejected out of your nose, removing any potential pathogen. Coughing, similar thing, except now we're looking at the lower respiratory tract and trying to clear that out with a forceful gust of air. Vomiting, if your alimentary canal is irritated, we can contract the muscles within the abdomen and the diaphragm, and that's going to get rid of your stomach contents. And finally, diarrhea, irritation of your intestinal tract, is going to remove anything irritating them quite quickly. So we've looked at the reflexes. We know we want to prevent things from getting in, but here are some of the actual defense features that your body has as well. So number one, mucus. We've got mucus in lots of different regions all around our body. What it's going to do is it's going to trap microorganisms. Number two, cilia. These are hairs. They are going to beat. Okay, so think like you've got something stuck in your throat. You're going to cough up some mucus. Okay, the mucus has trapped the microorganisms, but how do we get the mucus up? Well, we're using these hair-like projections, these cilia that beat, okay, that produce a beating motion, pushing the pathogens towards the throat, where we either end up swallowing them or we cough them up. Hairs, normally found in the ears and nose, they help us to trap really large particles. Acids, you've got some in your saliva, got some in your stomach, in the vaginal canal, in urine and in sweat, and that's just going to simply destroy any pathogens found there. And finally, lysosomes. Lysosomes are a type of cell that we'll look at in a second, and lysosomes help, not a type of cell, type of organelle found within saliva, tears and sweat, and they're going to help us with the breakdown of many different kinds of pathogen. So, what are some of the big structures now? Okay, we're looking at the skin. The skin is the largest organ of the body, and it is our biggest physical barrier to prevent against the establishment of bacteria coming into the body, viruses, funguses, you name it. Okay, the skin is a barrier. It's going to prevent everything from getting in. Now, on the skin, we have a oily secretion known as sebum, and we also have sweat. And both sebum and sweat contain antibacterial properties. They don't allow bacteria to grow very well on the surface of the skin. Number two, earwax or cerumen. Okay, earwax is there to trap pathogens. It's also slightly acidic and it contains those lysosomes that we spoke about. So they contain the digestive enzymes and they'll go and break down any pathogen that is trapped by them. Finally, in the case of the urinary tract, urine itself removes pathogens from the urethra. So women have a shorter urethra than men, so are more likely to suffer from a UTI, so a urinary tract infection or like a bladder infection and things like that. So this is our first line of defense. We need to know these three large-scale features. We need to know these finer features. And finally, we need to know these reflexes as well. So sneezing, coughing, vomiting, diarrhea.